Good morning, Ramin. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this morning. I really admire you as a filmmaker. I think you make very unique but thought-provoking films that really bring up good points and start conversations. So I want to just start with that and just say thank you for doing that.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
So I'm going to start with an easy one. When did you first discover the novel, and what made you want to make it into a film?
Well, the novel was written by a very close friend of mine, Arvind Adiga. We've been friends since college in the mid late 90s in New York at Columbia University. And we've had a 25-year dialogue now about movies, books, the world, our ideas. And I've shared all my screenplays with him for feedback and thoughts. And he shared a lot of manuscripts with me. And one of them was The White Tiger. So I had been reading it almost 4 years before it was published and was just immediately drawn to the character, the voice, Balram's voice of just his kind of electric, sarcastic, satirical, dark tone that he had found. And I had always wanted to make it into a film. So in a way, I've been waiting 15 years to make this film.
Wow. That's fascinating that you actually got a sneak peek at it before it was actually published.
Yeah.
So most of your films, and I've noticed this, have dealt with social class or the division of wealth. What exactly is it about that topic that speaks to you so dearly?
I think it's one of the major issues of our generation, the growing divide in income between, I don't even want to say the rich and the poor, it's the rich and everybody else. The one of the things we struggle with in America is to understand how tenuous life is for the middle class. And I think COVID has really exacerbated that. It's widened the chasm, and I think it might really, in a tragic way, make the story of Ballroom even more identifiable and understandable here.
It's funny because that was actually going to be my next question. It's sort of crazy how this film mirrors today. It especially comes noticeable with the government's handling of what businesses stay open and which ones are forced to close. What do you personally think that has to say about our society here?
Tell me what you mean about that. That's
So,
interesting.
so, so, like, all big businesses, like, okay, we can have productions. There's been lots of news stories, and then a restaurant across the street is forced to shut down, but there's a production across the street.
I
Uh,
saw that on Twitter. That was so infuriating to see.
yeah, and I think
That you
there's a
heard
lot
about
of
that
that
woman who's
within this society. Like movie theaters are not safe, but hey, something else is like sporting events now have started to become more and more safe, like where they're letting people in.
Yeah, I didn't understand that either. You could eat in a restaurant without a mask, but you couldn't go to a movie theater, sit socially distanced with a mask. That didn't make a lot of sense. There's the COVID has unfortunately really exacerbated the and unearthed what was there, the struggles of ordinary people. Um, in New York, I found it weird that people were applauding at nighttime for the first line workers, the EMT workers, the healthcare workers, many of whom don't have health insurance. That's astounding to me. You could be an EMT worker and not even have health insurance. So, the film is, because of Arvin's great book, the film has a kind of humorous tone, especially the first half of the film. I think it pops, it's electric, it's fun, it's entertaining. But underneath it, at the same time, there is a simmering rage. And I think, in very frightening ways, we're feeling that around the world, from what happened recently in Lagos to now what's happening a very frightening and tragic way here.
Yeah, it's just crazy. I couldn't help but like think about what's going on when I was watching this movie. Um, I also want to point out that, most of your previous films, I think almost all of them have premiered at a film festival. And I think under normal circumstances, this movie probably would have premiered at one as well. Um, can you just briefly talk about the impact film festivals had on your career and why you feel they're so important to independent filmmakers like yourself?
Yeah, I mean, that was very sad in a way. All my films have premiered in Venice or Cannes and later screened at, Telluride, Sundance, Toronto. Under Cameron Bailey's leadership, has screened all my films. Um, you know, it was heartening to hear from Alberto at Venice and Julia and Cameron at Toronto how much they loved the film when they saw it. But we were not able to screen the films this year with Netflix at festivals due to their policy around COVID. And without those festivals, I think my career would have been very different. As a independent filmmaker telling different kinds of stories, if you're lucky to get into them, it really helps put a spotlight on the film. It helps critics like you take note. It helps the film kind of emerge out of the mass of great movies that are out there, and for people who like those festivals, they want to pay attention. And so I have found them, very blessed to have been a part of them, and they've been had a huge impact on my career, in ways that domestically someone like Roger Ebert was the great late Roger Ebert was so important to me in my career, or even someone like Tony Scott, who had been supportive of me early on. It really helps when you're making a small indie movies. It helps.
All right. Well, they're telling me to wrap. Well, thank you very much for talking to me today. Best of luck with the film, and I'm looking forward to what you do next.
Thank you so much. Thanks for getting up early.
No problem. Take care.
Bye bye.